I've got a jar of nothing, actually, still. But this jar, experiments shall be done with it. I recently acquired this jar at the thrift store, and as it is June, so sun ought to be shining right now. However, it is not. I thought this would be a perfect jar to do like some solar dyeing, but you know, not just regular solar dyeing. I want one skein of yarn that has multiple colors, that is like fun, stripy, novelty, indie dyed yarn. You know, all the pretty stuff you see everywhere. I want to make it just with this jar. And water, and well, you know, natural dye stuff. That's what we're going to do today. That's the experiment. I thought I still had some pristine white undyed yarn. Apparently I do not, but I have this that I once dyed, but as you can see, it did not get a lot of color, so I'm going to over dye it. I also have a second one because it's, I don't know, maybe rather a big jar. First, what we are going to do is mordant these again with some alum. That is a little bit over 100 grams of yarn. So kind of as a measurement to go with, we go with a 10% weight of fabric, or in this case, weight of yarn of alum, to mordant it. Now, so a little bit over 100 grams of fabric, so we'll measure out 10 grams of alum. And we'll add the yarn to it when the alum is dissolved in the warm water. So now if I want to give my yarn multiple colors, multiple stripes, you know, then we need multiple dye stuffs. I have one thing, which is red onion peels, that I saved just for this video, but all the rest, let's just go into the garden and forage some stuff, because there is a lot of interesting materials in the garden that I might not have used in a dyeing video before, but you know, still gets the right to shine. A first dye plant that I have over here, which will yield nice color, I think, is this curly dock, which is being, well, eaten alive by some aphids, but let's take some of the curly dock leaves. And here we have some flowers in the dandelion family. We know, of course, dandelion, a great dye source. Let's take those as well. A lot of people will hate it when it is in their garden, but we shall use some ground elder as well, which by the way is also quite delicious in a pesto or stuff, or as a substitute to spinach. If you can't beat it, eat it. Or if it won't die, then let's dye. Of course, some of my trusty coconuts. And then maybe we shan't overdo it and first try and see how much we get in our pot, our vase, our jar. Maybe then we'll pick some more afterwards, I don't know. Chaos reigns supreme. Let's get our experiment started. Now, when I was pointing you out all of the wild natural dye stuff that I found throughout my garden, I think those of you who know a little bit about natural dyeing will know that approximately everything that I picked will either give a green or a yellow, which are pretty gorgeous colors. But to get like a little bit more of variety, I also brought in some of my store-bought dye stuff. I have some annatto over here, some madder root and campeche. I might sprinkle like 1 or 2 of these. I don't know if this will work. You know, this is really an experiment. I don't know if it will work, but like a speckled look would be the ideal outcome. Anyway, let's start by opening the pot. I don't know if you could hear that just now, but yeah, that was the evidence that it is not sunny nor summer in June in Belgium 2024. Or well, in Belgium in June 2024. Let's start with like a layer of the red onion peels to get a real good, like, you know, green base layer. And then we'll just drape a first bit of the yarn on top of that. There we go. Let's add some yellow, maybe like the dandelion family over here. Sprinkle a little bit of the annatto, maybe also madder, because why the heck not? The idea here is that the dye stuff it comes in contact with will be the parts that it gets the color. Like, that's the idea. I mean, you probably could have inferred that from all the ramblings I did before. What's it actually called in English? I know in Dutch this is bonte wieke. Hairy veg. Vicia villosa, the hairy veg. Fodder veg or winter veg. This is not fodder veg, because that's the other one. I have got voederwieke, but hairy veg, that's hairy veg. Maybe some campeche with the hairy veg, just because it rhymes. Campeche with the hairy veg. And then let's top it off with the curly dock, of which I have rinsed off most of the aphids, because aphids are not a reputable dye source. And then some more sprinkles. Now let's top it off with some water, and then we can ignore it for like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Depends on how much the sun is willing to shine. And I'll use this plastic bag as like a little airlock to make sure no bacteria are forming, because that's not really what we want. I mean, I have a video where that happens. We're not trying to repeat that process. That experiment has been experimented with. That was enough. Now the key ingredient to solar dyeing is of course the sun, so I've put my pot over here on my kitchen windowsill, which is southern facing, so it will get the most and the hottest sun. My braids are falling off my head. Anyway, it is drizzly, grey, disgusting weather. I'm going to go inside. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. It's been approximately 2 weeks in which there were a couple of days where the temperatures even rose to plus 30 degrees Celsius. So let's assess what we have in our jar over here. I've been careful not to like move it around too much, because I think then the colors might have blended too much, but even still I think the red and maybe little purplish tones are very dominant in this. Maybe it was not such a good idea to sprinkle in the madder and the annatto and the campeche, but we will see. We will see. Did you just... Why? Why did you fall down? Can you please come back up? That would be nice if you could just come back up, so I can show you that my experiment has worked. Like, I'm still not done with rinsing all of it, but there is some greenish, yellowish, some reddish and purple spots. It's very faint, like pastel even almost. But it worked. So even some orange over here. Maybe next time I'll leave them in longer than 2 weeks. Since this experiment was kind of successful, I want to, you know, experiment a little further. What if I can I put little dots of my iron solution on some spots? Wouldn't do anything at all. I don't think my iron afterbath speckles did too much, but now that it is hanging outside, we can actually see that the base experiment, it worked. Look, here is some red, some purple, more purple over here, and then this bit is very yellowy green, some soft orange over here and some soft purples here. Yeah, proof of concept, the concept works. What I think I will do in the future is not take as many dye stuff, because I don't know, maybe I went a little bit overboard. I was a little bit too enthusiastic with gathering my dye stuff, and then really look for ones that are super dye stuffs. Because you can guess, of course, that the colors that are here right now are the Campeche, the Anato, the Madder, and the onion peels. That are the ones that are most outspoken on these skeins. All the rest might have contributed to the yellowy greenish beige color that is the basis of the skein, but the pops of color, those are they're the most known dye stuffs for a reason. It is yet again been proven why they are so popular. They got a bit tangled up. When this is all done, dusted and published, I will reskein them. But now that they are all dry, actually, you can see some of the iron water spots. I'll try and make better shots in a minute, but for now, let's just recap what we did. I think this was a good starting point for further experimentations. The multiple dye stuff solar dye needs some fine-tuning in my opinion, but the basis is there. I mean, the skeins, however very pastel, do have different shades of green, purple and a little bit of orange, and then this one also has the more darker grayish spots from the iron water that I sprinkled on top of it. So I was able to sort of make speckled yarn with solar dyeing. If I would try this experiment again, what dye stuff would you recommend me that I put in the jar? Let me know in the comments. But for now, I'm just going to let you enjoy some better shots in which the yarn doesn't just look beige. And then, well, all that there is left for me to say is if you like these kind of fiber shenanigans, then maybe you could like, comment or subscribe, but of course that is all up to you. And as for me, I will see you in a next video. But before we do that, maybe you could tune in into some more dyeing shenanigans. Bye!